TV land. Welcome to my show, SYLLABLISS or syllabus. I, of course, am your host, the Fake Professor. And on SYLLABLISS or syllabus, I comb through college syllabi from across the nation. Because it turns out, after teaching college for nearly 2 decades, 5-time teacher of the year, I realized that I developed only one skill, and that is the ability to comb through college syllabi, read between the lines, and tell you, my trusty viewers/subscribers, if students in that class can expect a blissful experience or if they are straight up screwed. Anyway, this is all in good fun. This is not meant to be mean-spirited. And most importantly, we, and that's the royal we, are only using syllabi already in the public domain. And let me just say, teaching college in 2025 is an particularly extremely challenging gig. Yes, it is. All right. So who are we covering today? Well, I cannot tell you how excited I am to be covering one of Fake Professor's alma maters. That is correct. The one, the only, the Harvard of the Midwest, Northwestern University. That's right. All right, Northwestern University, we are covering NU today. The Wildcats, yes, we are. And now that we've, processed quite a bit of syllabi, today we are starting to look at the syllabi from one of the topics that's really kind of one of everybody's favorite topics in American higher education, sociology. Absolutely, right? Why do American college students, and why did yours truly, Fake Professor, when he was at Northwestern, love sociology? Well, sociology is just an inherently interesting topic. It attempts to understand why we as humans, in large groups kind of do what we do. And I think that, anytime you are kind of the first time where you get exposed to sociology, it really kind of reveals just some truths, or gets close to revealing some truths about our depraved and disturbed human nature. And sociology is often a minor for lots of students. It sort of pairs well with criminal justice, law, psychology, medicine, all sorts of things that it pairs really well with. Okay, so here we go, folks, for today. Here is the syllabus Intro to Sociology, right? One of those courses that lots of people take when they are college students. And again, let's take a look. Coming right out of the gate, 12 pages. Not bad. Starting to get a little bit long, but 12 pages still in that sweet spot. So that's a good sign. Right out of the gate, this kind of has a vibe of coming off a typewriter, which maybe is sort of just like the aesthetic that this professor is going for. So kind of cool, maybe a good sign, maybe not a good sign. Just kind of, I always go into these cold. So just kind of giving you my initial just sort of reaction to the style of it, because of course there are a lot of strategic decisions that go into the style of your syllabus, the font you use, how you organize it, how you use white space. You are communicating an energy to your students. Am I hyper organized? Am I overly detailed? Am I just kind of fly by the seat of my pants? Have I checked out? Am I high energy? Am I more introverted? What's the energy of this class going to be? Style really matters. All right, let's keep going here. Okay, here we go. Very interesting. All right, first page. I'm going to actually shrink this a little bit. Pretty bare bones for the first page of a college syllabus in 2025. You have, contact information and teaching assistants. And again, I just got to say, this really does look like on a typewriter. And the only writing is about the professor's office hours. So let's take a look. I will be in my office. Okay. I'm happy to meet somewhere more accessible in person if stairs to a turret in an old. Wait, what the? Feel free to reach out to set up meetings outside this time as well. Oh, this is their office. Feel free to reach out to set up meetings. I'm also happy to meet virtually over Zoom, and I'm happy to meet somewhere more accessible in person if stairs to a turret in an old house do not work for you. I guess he's making a funny about his office, sort of the old Victorian kind of style buildings in Evanston. I'm kind of charmed by that. Not going to lie. Lots of TAs, big class. That means big enrollment. So again, this is a professor who is handling a large intro class. And that is a different style of teaching. It is totally different teaching 20 students than it is teaching 100 students. And it's totally different teaching 20 students as it is 500 students. And it's different teaching 100 students versus 250 students. This looks like a big class. Kudos to any human being in 2025 that can still get up in front of hundreds of human beings. There aren't many left. No, they're not. Okay, course description. Now, normally, fake professor, course description, biggest waste of space on syllabi. Normally, these come from the university. They're mandated. Faculty have no control over them. Occasionally, you'll see a professor kind of have their own one, but that's pretty rare. This is normally standard legalese, and nobody pays attention to this because that's not why students are looking at a syllabus. If an instructor truly believes that their students are reading the course description, they are demonstrating a tad bit case of the narcissisms. All right. Sociology is a field of study that examines how people and groups interact, navigate, and make decisions within the structure and constraints of their social world. Very true, straightforward, like it. Often these processes go unobserved or unacknowledged. How did Evans? Okay. Through sociological analysis, we can answer questions like, okay, so what is the first question in the course description? They're orienting you to, again, their style. How did Evanston become largely segregated by race? That's for sure. Why is it illegal for people to sell their kidneys? What? How do people decide when to get married? And why would someone pay for Instagram followers? These are all very interesting questions. I got to be honest. And what I like about this is that this instructor is covering a range of topics. And that is always a really good sign. It's not so much if your professor, does or avoids hot button issues. You want your professor to be embracing controversial hot button issues. You just don't want them only embracing controversial hot button issues. Okay. Sociology is a huge field of study and includes a wide variety of topics and methods. Hey, just like I was saying, what a nice transition there. Each lecture will focus on a specific area of sociological study: culture, gender, race, money, stigma, a lot of the biggies, etc. Maybe it was just me. When I was trained, you were trained to never have an etc. That is not professional. Etc. means you're lazy or you're just giving examples. It is true. But then you use the EG convention to indicate you're just giving examples, right? Here, I just don't like the etc. But that's real small and nitpicky. Keep going. With the goal of offering you a general overview of the types of questions sociologists ask and how they answer them. Hey, that's pretty cool. Okay, let's check this out. Many of the readings for this class are academic articles. These readings are difficult. I know they are difficult. One of the skills we will actively focus on and develop throughout the quarter is how to approach and understand readings that are intimidating and difficult. Having the practical ability to quickly process dense academic articles will help you. I think there's an extra space here. I'm just saying that's sloppy. In many courses across a variety of majors at Northwestern. If nothing else, I will make sure you leave this course with the helpful strategies to approach dense technological readings. The syllabus is designed to facilitate this. Okay, very nice. This is always sort of a stylistic thing, and you can understand why the professor has put this in clearly. And this really, I think this paragraph is a really good representation of something you see on a modern syllabus that you would not see on a syllabus 10 years ago. And that is there's certainly, particularly since COVID, since 2020, there's been an increased sort of cultural shift in academia to always sort of be acknowledging your students' struggles, somehow giving voice to them. That there's something to sort of recognizing or seeing their struggle that is supposed to be a good thing, and certainly I do think can be a good thing, as long as it's not excessive. And so there's a bit here, like this is an intro to sociology course. I don't really feel necessarily, especially at Northwestern University, one of the most prestigious universities in the country, if not the world, that you need to be in an intro to social class kind of telling students, I see your pain in reading scientific articles. I don't really love that, but I don't really hate it either. This professor so far, I kind of like what they're doing, so let's keep going. Course objectives, who cares? All right, course materials. There are no required textbooks for this course. Readings for this class will be available on Canvas through the course reserve or as PDF links. If you run into an issue, awesome. Gotta love it. Any class where students do not have to pay anything is a blissful experience. So great for this instructor. Kudos to this instructor for setting their students up for success. Really nice. Okay, class procedure. Now we're starting to get into stuff, really specific stuff that this faculty member has done. But I got to be honest here. We're on page 3. There's a lot to go here. So I'm getting a little worried. It's a lot of running. Oh, I see Chat GPT. Let's dive into this. I will lecture in person in our assigned classroom. I expect students to attend lecture. An in-person lecture attendance is part of your final grade. There will be material in the short answer questions you have to answer that pull from lecture material, i.e., I will write the short answer questions, assuming you have attended lecture. The easiest way to get this lecture material information is to attend lecture. Very nice paragraph. I like that. This is in person. You're expected to come to class. You're going to need to come to class to get a good grade. However, if you're unable to attend lecture, you will need to get this information a different way. Recordings, office hours, notes from friends, piece it together from the readings, post-it slides, again, the etc. I will post my lecture slides to Canvas after lecture. Feel free to email me if I forgot. Awesome. Again, pretty straightforward. I like it. If you miss class, you got to get the notes. That is college. You're an adult. We got to get during COVID time, we got into this sort of, way of, being sort of overly accommodating and for good reason. And we should have, and for good reason. But we do have to kind of, get things back professional. And I like this, very professional. Cool. In the new world of Chat GPT, that should be one word. It's kind of cute that it's 2 words. Tools existing. My standard for grading is that work with nonsensical content. Okay, here we have another formatting error, i.e. This is not correct. You can see there's an i.e. here that was formatted correctly. Okay, this is sloppy, and we're starting to see some sloppy editing. And while the ideas here, I'm really liking this instructor's ideas, I'm starting to get worried about their attention to detail. And that stuff matters. It really matters. Let's keep going. Content that the person grading the work does not understand where it came from. What the fuck? In the new world of Chat GPT tools existing, my standard for grading is that work with nonsensical content. That is content that the person grading the work does not understand where it came from. It just seems random. I see. So you're grading it and you're like, what the F is this? Receives a 0. And the student can email me, Professor Scheiber. This isn't mean to be like anxiety inducing if they want to talk about where the content came from. Oh boy, what is this? There are also often opportunities in class to turn in extra work to make up for low grades, and students can turn in extra work to make up for lower grades within the deadline policy outlined below in the grading section. Okay, now I'm starting to get a little bit worried here for sure. And maybe the sloppy editing was a sign. Okay, So this instructor is now telling their students that if they deem your writing to appear to them nonsensical, that is, they're not really sure what you're talking about or where it came from. I think they're saying that they're going to assume that then came from generative AI and that you will then get a 0 for it. And that if you don't like that, you can email the professor who puts their name in the middle of the sentence in a very incorrect formatted way with a statement, this isn't mean to be like anxiety producing. They're just missing an LOL OMG. And then tell you there are often opportunities for makeup or extra work, and without really being specific. Now, maybe I think they're indicating they're going to be more specific, but these words of there often will be or there can be, those are really big red flags. As soon as a professor is introducing subjectivity into grading, big red flags that they are not a very well trained teacher. Okay. This standard is not meant to stifle creativity or your ability to get information down on the page. Pull from other classes, critique the readings, use personal anecdotes that resonate with lecture topics, develop an idea you started in a high school essay. I would just much rather the writing on the work we grade reads like it was written by a Northwestern undergrad taking my hodgepodge of a class than by a robot. Uh-oh, folks, we are taking a real left turn here and heading into syllabus, okay? Here you now have an instructor clearly this instructor is an older instructor. I'm getting the sense he's been around the block here for a while. Essentially now just kind of reminiscing about the good old days. And that's fine. It's fine to reminisce about the good old days. It's fine to kind of reminisce about what you think has been lost in higher education. But that doesn't have any impact on the fact that you have young adults growing up in a modern world that need to be trained in the modern world. And you just going up there and being like, "Wah, I don't like the fact that the world is modern now. I wish it was like when I was a kid. And so I'm just going to keep this class the same way," is one of the biggest problems with teaching in higher education. And this goes back to the fundamental dirtiest secret of higher education. The thing I wrote my book about, the thing that Fake Professor is based on, is that college professors are not trained instructors. We are not trained teachers. Everything we do as teachers, it's either something that was done to us or it's just some idea that we created or pulled from somewhere that we've kind of tested out in a classroom. So you can see here, this instructor really just has a sense of an old reality, the reality that maybe when they first started teaching or they were a student, they would like to recapture. And this is really problematic because this is not the world these students are living in. And you're not helping them by pretending that it's the world you grew up in. The TAs and I are always happy to meet during office hours. If you still do not understand, okay. So now we are only on page 4. We haven't seen anything about grade breakdown. We haven't seen anything about, when anything is. It's just been tons of typewriter writing. Let's keep going. Lecture attendance and participation. Okay, this is 20% of your grade. Okay, now we have grading. Now, normally, when you have a grading section, you're going to have a section where a student, when they're freaking out about their grade or how much is attendance worth or how much is the paper's worth, generally, you want to have one page, and generally that's really early on in the syllabus where a student can go and extract that information. That's probably the number one reason why a student's going to go to their syllabus to look at grading and deadline stuff. This is not helpful. This is not easy to ascertain information. This is clearly an instructor who's sort of lost in their own sort of head about, a long gone type of academia that frankly wasn't what they think it was to begin with. Reading response papers, okay, short answer questions, lots of stuff on there. And there you go. There is the letter grading. Northwestern has plus or minuses. I remember that. That was great. Email. Okay. Email is the best way to get a hold of me, and I try to respond to emails as quickly as possible. Very nice. If you have questions about course material reading, don't hesitate to email. Great. Disability. Additional notes. It is the responsibility of every student enrolled at Northwestern University to support the principles of academic integrity. Very nice. Okay. Here is the link. Students with disabilities. Okay. This is a very, very small section. And I'm now starting to notice that this is really important. Okay. And they have a link here and they have a phone number, and maybe this is the standardized language. Generally, standardized language for this is longer. There's more information. This is an extremely important part of the syllabus. Of all, I think the services, this is the most important one. And this looks pretty de-emphasized. I don't like that. Any student requesting accommodations related to a disability or other conditions required to register. Okay, and this might just be the standard language, so that's fine. Okay, so finally we got the calendar here. We're getting into it. We're halfway through the syllabus. We did have two things that were 2024. One is a New York Magazine. And so I'm just looking at this because this is really all the information that we're getting here, just trying to get a sense of how this instructor is orienting things. I do think they're doing a really good job of covering a range of stuff before. Clearly, in terms of modern time, they're kind of coming up to the pandemic, coming up to that particular period in higher education, in the Great Awakening, that sort of time. Definitely sort of focused there. Interesting to see if that class is going to kind of be stuck there or is going to move on. This is kind of tricky, folks. This is really kind of tricky. What do I think about this course? There are, some good things for sure. And probably the best thing about this course, and it's not surprising, this clearly I think is an older instructor, is there is sort of an old school approach to attending class and those sorts of things. And when I was at Northwestern, that was a big thing. You had to attend class. That was just the expectation. There clearly is that sort of traditional, more old school expectation. There aren't recordings sort of posted before class, that sort of stuff. You have to attend class. And that's probably the best part of this syllabus, is that kind of high expectation for students. It is clear also that this instructor has been doing this for a long time, probably has quite a breadth of knowledge about the topic. And again, credit to any human being that's teaching a large intro class in 2025, and is even attempting to kind of broach some of these sort of controversial topics. And then the other thing that's really great, no textbook. It's all papers, so no additional cost for students, even though this is Northwestern University. And let's be honest, there's a lot of affluent people there, so textbook cost not as big of an issue, but still an issue for a lot of students. But unfortunately, I am going to have to give this a syllabus. Why do I give this a syllabus? Well, this course really, this podcast really is about syllabus construction here, the art of constructing a syllabus to really support your students the best you can. And what these reveal about the insanity of your college instructor, and we are all insane because of these last 5 years have absolutely broke all of us. But there are some really bad signs here that this instructor sort of got into a point where they're letting the reins off, let's say, some of their detailed focus. And that can be really nice, but you're sort of getting the sense that you have an instructor that kind of wants to kind of lay back in their recliner, kick their feet up, and just sort of ramble about sort of all the stuff that they've learned over the last 40 years. And while those classes sometimes can be really cool, you can get an instructor that just kind of tells stories and blah, blah, blah. And it's a really easy A. This seems like that instructor is kind of in that point where they are no longer sort of really interested in how we might kind of define sort of like a traditional educational experience. And they're just kind of more interesting and kind of talking about interesting things, and certainly appear to be kind of oriented towards the time that all broke us. And when you start to really see like extra spaces in a syllabus, poor formatting, IEs and things like that, that is a bad sign. But really, when you start to see sort of the instructor kind of saying things where they are really misunderstanding the moment in time, they're misunderstanding the world that their students are sort of coming up in, And they are choosing, instead of training their students for the modern world, to ask them to join them in putting their head in the sand and just pretending the world isn't what it is. So for that, Northwestern University Intro to Sociology, I'm sorry, syllabus. Hope you like that one, folks. I'll see you next time. Peace.